What is the game that you wish they continue making in the future? Well, it's the game that already won't die. I have to say World of Warcraft, you know? Like, yeah, it's my game. The only thing is I'm gonna add to that, and I'm gonna say I would like them to make it better than it is now. You know, they are making it worse. So, but it is the game that I would love them to see. I would love to see them continue and make WoW great again. I hated to say that. I hated to say it, but I had to. It's the only thing that fits with that line. But yeah, make WoW great again. Yeah. I did. I saw the interview yesterday. I was surprised no one mentioned it yesterday. But yeah, and that is the stupidest thing they could do. Yeah. And I gotta imagine you probably agree, right, Miss Bugaboo? Because I feel like no one's seeing what I'm already seeing, and it isn't even out yet. And what I'm seeing is that they put that in, and you got these people that are like, anyone that hates this change, you're just an idiot. You know, it's not going to affect people. Bullshit, it's going to affect people, because the way I see it is if you can all of a sudden use one key for an entire rotation, like you're a raider, Miss Bugaboo, there's going to be a bunch of idiots raiding. There's already idiots raiding, right? But you're going to have everyone. And you're not going to know too much of a difference. You're going to think they know what they're doing because the game is doing the rotation, right? So those are the people you're going to end up having because of that one key. Yeah, I think it is the stupidest thing they could fucking do. I can't believe they're doing it. I will like it for my alts I never play, but main characters, it's like bad. Exactly. And, you know, it's funny because I don't know if you were here during this, Miss Bugaboo, and it's no disrespect to him. He's a regular viewer. But one of my regular viewers had come in a couple of days ago and said he was struggling with the boomkin and they couldn't figure out the rotation. And he had mentioned this like starter build thing. And I was laughing at that. I was laughing at the starter build fucking option. And then the next day this interview pops up and they're talking about this one key thing. And yeah, it's like, I like, oh God, I love my WoW, but they are constantly baby moding the shit out of it. Like, you remember when you would learn yourself how to play the game? Like, I don't even agree with they're like doing a comparison with that add-on. I don't think that add-on should have existed all these years either. That Heckley? No. Nothing against add-ons, but I don't think majority of the combat add-ons should exist. And the game should not be being created around those add-ons. You know, like, yeah. Like, I got so much to say on that, Miss Bugaboo. Oh, God. Yeah, and, you know, on the topic of the Moonkin, like, I told them, you know, just pay attention to your dots. I get that the rotation can be a little difficult for a new druid, you know, and, you know, unfortunately, those are the videos I don't do. Like, I could, but I do so many other videos, I never have time to do, like, fucking how to play a class type videos. But, you know, but I don't want to dumb down to where you just spam one key. Like, even me, like, you know, I play all the classes. There are some classes that I'm a little less familiar patch by patch with, and I don't want that key. I want to continue to learn myself how to play those characters. And you know, a lot of people make the complaint that like if your game needs that, the problem is your game. I don't think it's always the game. I think it's the people. People are fucking idiots and they don't want to play, they don't want to learn how to play the game anymore. They just want everything handed to them. And I'm tired of those people, you know? Now I gotta scroll up after my rants tend to be a little long. I gotta scroll up now, see what's going on. Oh, and Sapso, if you're still here, if we didn't lose you in the rant, favorite old console is the GameCube. I love it. I will like it for my alts. I never play, but main characters, it's like bad. I just wonder how optimized it will be compared to someone who's doing their own. Plus, you don't learn your character at all. And on that topic, you don't learn your character at all, I think it's important, like, and they mention it in the interview. If you, I don't know if you just like saw the news article or if you watched the video, but in the interview, there, you know, Ian says straight out that because the game is so sped up now and you can skip expansions and all that, that you don't have time to learn your abilities. Well, slow the game fucking down. You know, I never liked the speed up of leveling. That I think that was the first big issue, big mistake they did, because there's no positive side to a person speeding to 80 and not knowing what to do. You know, they speed to 80, go into, you know, M+ a raid, and they are the idiot, you know, because they didn't have the time to learn. You know, like, yeah. It's like they're doing all this stuff because of bad decisions they made that allowed people to be in this position, you know? I haven't been riled up about a WoW change in a long time. Me too. The last one was when they put Tyrael's charger on the store. Because I'd been holding onto that mount for like 12 years. There have been a lot of good changes that help the solo player and people with limited time, but yeah, way dumbed down. Max in the interview is probably thinking, oh my god. I do like the speed up to a point, but how do you find that happy medium? And on the topic of Max, see, that's the next problem I have, is that you had in that interview, you had one of the top end raiders and one of the top end M+. Are those really the people we should be getting like the game made for? You know, the 1%, you know, like it, yeah, that is one of their biggest problems, because those people are not majority of the crowd. You know, most people, let's be real, how many people are out there raiding Mythic every patch? No, most are raiding normal and heroic. You know, some will raid Mythic, but don't complete it. Right? It's the top end that are completing and weekly running all bosses on Mythic mode. Same with the M+. You know, how many people are out there doing 30+ on M+? You know, most are, you know, a +2 key to, I don't know, 20, right? And 20's even pushing it sometimes, you know? And yeah, it's just, those are the people that Ian is listening to. And Ian's just he's just the voice, right? I like to believe that Ian doesn't agree with all these changes either. Just he's the voice. He's the one that has to come out and tell us the changes. But I don't think, like, he was a raider, you know, before he was part of that team, he was one of us. He was a raider. And I can't imagine that he, like, if if he wasn't making the money he is, you know, helping develop the game, like, if he was just a player, he'd be furious, I think. Yeah. Yeah. And I think he would understand that you shouldn't be making, you know, basing the game around the 1%. Yeah. And they've been doing that for so long. It's just so stupid. Yeah. It didn't even surprise me when that interview popped, because what happened shortly before that? We had the M+ quest appear in Delves. Clearly not enough people are doing M+, right? And I mentioned that at the beginning of this expansion. I'm like, Delves, you know, back in when M+ first started, M+ kinda, not totally, but it lowered the amount of people that raid. Because you could get, yeah, it was easier to get 5 people doing M+ dungeon than, you know, 20 to 40 for a raid, right? And then when Delves came in, I was like, okay, now we are going to have a lot less people doing M+, because now they don't need 5 people, they need 1 themselves. And you're getting all the same gear, basically, unless you basically, like, you have to be mythic raiding, you know, to, you know, or the last 2 bosses on, like, heroic. But the gear before that, normal, heroic raids, and M+, you know, basically to the max of the gear, is the same that you can get from the Delves, more or less. You know, there might be a couple of extra things that give a little bit higher, but not much, right? Yeah, you have to be one of the 1%, more or less, to be going higher than that level. And yeah, all these decisions is just like killing the player base in all these modes. And now, you know, now they're making decisions based off of the stuff that killed those modes, you know? I think that's the real purpose of the 1 button. I don't think it is for the new player. I don't think they care about the new player, okay? Like, yeah. I think it is because more people will do M+ and more people will raid if they can just spam 1 key and do the rotation and not be booted out of the group for not knowing what to do. That's my thought. But yeah, Miss Bugaboo, since it sounds like you didn't see the interview, there's more to that. Like, they're just highlighting that part because it's the most ridiculous part of the whole equation. But the real verdict of all that is that they want to do what they should have done a long time ago, and they want to implement all those add-ons into the actual system. So the interview was regarding that, and damage meters being in the system, and like a bunch of stuff. Yeah. Normally, I watch that on stream, but the minute I saw it involved YouTubers, I didn't. But if it had been if it'd been just like Ian talking with some other game devs, yeah, that's the shit I usually will show. But like, yeah, I'm not gonna. It's like, I guess I should, right? I should. I don't know. If you're willing to wait till tomorrow, maybe we'll watch it at the beginning, since tomorrow's like a WoW stream. I'll wait till you get in. It's like 45 minutes, something like that, 45 to 50, so yeah. To be fair, the DPS meter's such a basic one, you know, Miss Bugaboo? It's like, why has it taken this long? It seems so ridiculous. Right, we need these things in WoW so long ago. Definitely. Plus, the worst part of add-ons nowadays is that there's too many of them. And I was kind of okay with the oddball add-on like back in the early days. But now I myself have made the comment many times that no one's actually, you know, well, I won't say no one, but like, you know, high-end players or even just people that M+ and raid are not playing the game for themselves. Add-ons are helping them every step of the way. Back in the day, you would learn to step out of the fire. Now you have an add-on that tells you to step out of the fire, you know, and like, I think the problem is there's too many of those. And because of that, you know, your accomplishments aren't accomplishments anymore because you use add-ons, you know? And if it was implemented into the game, then maybe it would be kind of like, you know how it is. There's a difference between people using add-ons and then the game just giving you a little help along the way. There's a huge difference. It changes the vibe of the community. It's better to have a little help along the way in-game, you know, naturally than to have add-ons that you're installing to help you, right? It just it looks wrong, you know? It is wrong. And yeah, and now there's just so many. Hey Puggs, how's it going? Oh, you probably came in during the rant? Yeah, my apologies, Puggs. You know I'll address you as soon as I see it. But yeah, you probably came in the middle of my rant. Yeah, quite easy for me to, yeah, you probably got lost between my rant and you know, Miss Bugaboo, yeah, because she's responding to my rant, and yeah, between that, the chat was probably scrolling up a lot. Yeah. Yeah, totally my bad. But glad you're here. Welcome in. Yeah, there will be people that won't agree because there will be people that want the one button, you know? And those are the more casual people usually. Yeah, they're... yeah, people who are wanting to learn the class without, you know, not saying that you're the type that, you know, doesn't learn on your own, but, you know, there are people that may want to just quickly play the class, quickly do the damage, quickly complete things, you know, like, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's... you know, and that's the problem with these changes, really, is that they're wrong. Just gonna say, they are wrong. I don't care what anyone says. But you're always gonna have the two crowds. You're gonna have me, the person who's played for 20 years, thinking that they keep baby moding the game and that they should stop if they want to save the game. And then you're gonna have the other crowd that is just, you know, they got other things going on. Maybe they play 20 bazillion other games, or, you know, they do other things. They just want to, you know, experience the game. Maybe there's content they were never able to experience because they didn't know their rotation, right? So you're gonna have the two crowds. Where I really am looking forward to seeing it in action, though, is PvP. But the thing to remember, Puggs, is, like, you're a Diablo player, so think if it was, you know, well, I don't know, maybe you're a little more casual in Diablo, too, but WoW has a competitive board, and that competitive board is M+, raids, and PvP. One button... a rando walking in, just fucking one button rotation in a competitive game? Yeah. I was going to use Diablo as an example because back in the D3 days, we'd grind the Paragon, we'd get on the leaderboards, and of course, our issue back then was that there were so many bots, right? But just imagine that those guys weren't bots and those were players doing a one-button rotation, you know? That's the part to remember. That's why there's two crowds, right? There's the casual crowd that's gonna be like, oh, that's cool, I'll finally know my rotation. But then there's gonna be the other crowd that is gonna be like, oh, great, why do I even play this game anymore? You know, let's move on to a different game, you know? Because, you know, once you start fucking around with the competitive aspect, yeah, there's a lot that people are not really thinking. You know, I'm a think outside of the box type girl, and especially with WoW, because I've seen them do so many stupid fucking decisions that legit have ruined the game. Like, you can't deny that there's less people playing the game now. So their decisions do legit, you know, do damage to the game. Just it's a game that always holds on to millions of players because of mount collectors and stuff, right? So like you don't necessarily notice, and some people just keep subs running for the hell of it, and you know. Hand-eye coordination is anything like it. I was back in my 30. Okay. Well, I hate to say it, Puggs, and you're gonna hate me for this comment, but I'm gonna make it. I've made this comment many times before. It's not nice. But if you're struggling to play the game, then maybe it's time to stop playing the game, right? Like, I do not think that, like, it's like when people say, oh, I don't have time to play the game, you know, but I want to be as far as that person is. Yeah, you're just not going to be. You know, if you don't got the time to put into it, then move on, you know? Play a game that's a little more casual or whatever. Just be okay with the content that you're not going to be able to do. And yeah, you know, it's the same thing. I know it's a horrible comment, but it's, you know, it's the way it is, you know? And I've heard that so many times in WoW, you know? The rep grind is rough, or, you know, it's an MMO, it's grindy. That's the whole point of it. That's why it sucks more nowadays, because now they've turned in this game that's supposed to be more about progression and stuff into a theme park, you know? My game time play is limited, and I will like it for my ult, but when I play on my main and raid and we pug people, we will just see exactly. That's what I was saying earlier, Miss Bugaboo, yeah. Yeah, but the problem with that, they want you to know how everything is done. How do you learn if everyone's an arse? Well, you get a guild. That's what guilds are for. Guilds, friends, that's why you play with people. Like, I'm just gonna say, if you want to be solo, then be okay with solo content. You know? If you want to be a raider and you want to be an M+ player, make friends and play together. You can't have the best of both worlds, you know? Well, I guess now you can with the one button thing. But, you know, the community will adapt to that, and they will make harsher rules. Right now, there's harsh rules of a score that you need to get an M+. You know, things you need for rates, that's gonna bump up. That's gonna get bumped up severely when they do this one button thing, because you have to protect your guilds and your raids and your M+, and you're gonna have people that should not be in there. You know, they just look like they know their rotation. Like, yeah, there will be things that will be implemented. And WoW suffers from a very toxic place. Yeah, it can be toxic. But, you know, not to defend the toxicity, but, you know, a lot of it comes from idiot players that don't know what they're doing. You know, the toxicity is in group play. It's in M+, raids, PvP, you know. It's in situations where people need to know their role and how to play it. You do you, in my opinion. We can... Exactly, we'll have our different, you know, we'll have our different opinions, and I'm glad we can remain friends during that. And I'm a harsh person, you know. I've been gaming a long ass time, and I've been playing WoW every day of my life pretty much for 20 years. And all of the content, and I've seen the different levels of changes that they do and the different mentalities of players. And I've definitely seen this mentality lately in games where people, they're not even really gamers. You know, they're just people that want to walk into a game and earn everything that you take time to get yourself. And that's, you know, that's not... You know, maybe that's games now, I guess, but that is not what made me a gamer back in the day, you know? You can be a casual player and still learn. Exactly. Yeah. There are plenty of videos to watch that can... That too, you know? Like, why do we need this in a situation where YouTube exists and there are guides on playing your characters, you know? Everyone's gonna have a different opinion based on what kind of player they are. It differs for the people that are doing group content and the people that are solo. So, yeah. When you're solo, you don't care. You're all for the one button rotation because, like, what you do doesn't really matter. I thought about how I was gonna say that, and there was no way other than that. But, you know, it's a different level of content, you know? I wasn't meant to be harsh, but it's a different level of content. Okay, let's put it together a little better. When you're solo in WoW, you're mount farming, you're transmog farming, you know, we're gonna leave achievements out of here for a reason I'll describe in a sec, but that is all stuff that you generally wait till the content's older and you are one-shotting things. Like, you don't even have to worry. You don't have to buff, you don't have to heal. You know, you're fine. You know, the shit's so old that you don't even need to pay attention, right? And then you have, and those are, you know, sure, some solo players are doing current content too, but what are they doing? A daily quest? You know, some rep farming? They're fine. They don't need to pay attention that much. But, you know, with M+ and, you know, raids, those raid bosses are tough. M+, once you get to a certain level, that's tough, and it's timed, you know? So not only do you have the tough content, but you gotta complete it, and that's where toxicity kind of comes in as well, Puggs. Because people, like, if it's not getting timed, they're gonna be more pissed than, you know, a raid that has some bosses that don't go down. There's a whole different mentality when there's a timer going, right? And then the thing with the achievements is that you know, if you're an achievement farmer, some of those achievements is in that tough content. So, like, yeah, those people are just gonna, you know, obviously have different opinions, right? Yeah. But yeah, I didn't mean for it to come out super, super harsh. It just was no other way to word it. So speaking of raid, have a great raid, Miss Bugaboo. See you later or tomorrow. Okay, sounds good. Good luck on your gear and all that and your bosses.